Check one, check.
All right, welcome back. Today we are continuing the discussion on grief, and today's going to be a tough one. We're talking about Glenda's son Aaron that she lost to suicide in 2016. And I guess let's start. Our first question that I'll have for you to draw on this is, tell me what he was like as a child.
You know what, Aaron was a very quiet child, very introverted, extremely bright, questioned everything, loved Lego. He would get a set of Lego that would be, say, a castle, and he'd throw all the pieces in a box and make whatever he wanted. Could be a ship. He never did make with the Lego set.
Right.
It was supposed to be kind of a very creative child. Used to take things apart, put them back together. And always asked pretty good questions. A lot of them which I couldn't answer. I'd refer them to his dad, or read Google.
Like,
I mean, why is the sky blue, or why does this happen, or
was he super rambunctious as a child, full of energy?
Yeah, he was inquisitive. He put iced tea in the gas instead of gas in the lawnmower. He was helping his dad. He was about 4 years old at the time.
Put iced tea in?
Yeah, iced tea in the gas lawnmower.
Because it was the same color, maybe?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Or it was thirsty.
He was about 10 when he really wanted a motorbike. So what he did is he duct taped the leaf blower to his bike, and I was in the house making dinner when Dwayne came home. He went, "Why aren't you watching him?" And he's driving around our cul-de-sac with this leaf blower attached to, like, duct taped hard to his bike. He said, "I told you I wanted a motorbike." Yeah.
So would the leaf blower push him?
No,
Wouldn't propel
but it made noise.
Oh, it made noise, kind of like the cards and the spokes.
So then his best friend wanted a motorbike too. So his mom had to go out and buy a leaf blower and duct tape it.
No way.
So the boys were
Really?
big deals with their fake motorbikes.
Wow, and they'd be like, windy,
Yeah.
it'd be like super.
Yeah, blowing the dirt on the road as they went.
All I got was cards, playing cards.
Oh
through
yeah,
the
this is
spokes.
advanced. This was
Advanced.
This was the early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at me. I'm a big deal.
Yeah. So just regular child, regular school, like all that, friends, birthday parties, sleepovers.
Yep. Aaron had a birthmark. So Aaron was born with a birthmark on his face, and he had a really good, strong group of buddies that he hung out with. But whenever he was outside the community or playing community basketball and whatever, people would point it out, what's wrong with your face and stuff like that. And because he was pretty introverted and pretty shy,
Right.
I know that played on him. But a lot of his buddies would go, "Well, what's your problem? Like, leave him alone." And he always had a group that had his back.
Yeah.
And he
was
had
it a big birthmark?
Yeah, it was quite dark. He had it removed in grade 8, right before he started high school.
Okay.
But it left a pretty big scar. And then people would say, what happened to your face? And he'd say, well, I was swimming in...
The last guy that asked me that question.
Yeah, no, he actually told the substitute teacher one time, my family and I were in Hawaii for Christmas, and we went deep sea diving or something, and a tiger shark.
No way.
He did. He absolutely did. He came home and told me that.
Really?
Oh my goodness! And we've never been to Hawaii.
So he knew how to play the Who Am I game
Yeah, he
too.
did. He was good at. You know what? It was pretty much saying it's none of your business.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, why would an educator ask a 14-year-old kid what happened to their face?
I guess it depends on how it's asked. Probably there's probably a gentler way to ask that question, right? But
Or not.
Yeah, or not. So lots of friends.
He had lots of friends. He was involved in sports. Played soccer when he was younger, and then discovered basketball in grade 4.
Grade 4. He was tall.
Yeah, he was tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was,
Was he, so high percentile?
academically
No.
Oh.
No,
on the growth chart.
yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was 6'2" in grade 12. So,
Holy Dinah!
yeah. Mhm.
Really?
Mhm.
So was he the tallest boy in his friends? You know, like with or
No,
he had a couple tall kids.
he actually had a lot of tall friends. You know,
Right.
5'11" to his height.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys had he had some really close family friends. You guys, can you, if you don't mind, tell the story between the 2 yards?
Oh, we had neighbors.
Because
So
he played a lot of basketball.
Yeah, he
with
did.
them, right?
So his best buddy lived behind us on a cul-de-sac, and there's no back alleys. So we put a gate in the fence, and we shared our kids. We shared our dogs.
Right.
We had a German Shepherd. They had a golden retriever.
Right.
And so the gate was always open. Kids running back and forth. Yeah, we spent a lot of time with them for 17 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's rare these days, you know.
And they had 3 boys, and
yeah.
they were all interested in basketball.
But great
so.
environment, great. You always. So you guys probably had a few parties, a few get-togethers where the parents are maybe at one house and
We absolutely did.
and the kids are playing at the other house.
Yeah,
Right?
we did. And then we
Type
could just
thing.
run back and forth. We did that at New Year's a few times.
Did you?
Yeah, kids
Yeah.
at one house, and you could see into their window from our window. So, yeah, always knew what the kids were
This
doing.
before cameras were
Yeah,
highly
that's right.
available.
That's right. That's right. Back in the olden days.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Aaron, and he has a sister.
An older sister.
An older sister. How much older?
2 years.
2 years. What kind of brother was he? Did he aggravate her? Did he?
I think
did he
that's-
stick up for her?
I think that's pretty normal that they aggravated each other. I recall when he was about 12, the 2 of them got in a battle. So she would have been in grade 9 and he would have been in grade 7.
Okay.
And, he grabbed her on the head and started punching her.
Oh.
So her dad.
She didn't listen.
Yeah, okay. So no, Dwayne took Aaron into the other room and he said, "I'm going to tell you one thing, and don't ever forget this. You never hit a girl for any reason."
Right.
And he said, "Just walk away." And so for the rest of his existence at the house, he would just walk away.
Right.
Because once Aaron knew the rule, and he knew the rule wasn't meant to be broken, he stuck to it.
He stuck. He's a man of his word.
So he'd bite his tongue and he'd walk away. And I think all siblings, I mean, that's
Oh,
how
yeah.
you learn,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You banter back and forth or whatever. And there's lots of words flying, but there's no fists.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when they got older into high school years, did something tells me that he was there for his sister a lot.
Yeah, he was. So he was a couple
You
years
know.
younger. And they had some friends that were, that they shared, end up at the same parties, or kids are at our house. And yeah, he always had her back.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you find that with most. I mean, even with my siblings, it was the same way. Right?
Well, and of course, he liked her friends, right?
Yeah.
You've got all these hot chicks that are 2 years older, and he liked to hang out with them. So
Well,
Yeah.
you gotta do that.
method to his madness.
It sounds very, very normal. Normal childhood, right? I'm sure once he got into high school and started to create his own identity for himself, girlfriends. Tell me about his girlfriends. Like, I'm sure he was a great boyfriend at some level, right?
I can tell you for sure that there's 2 pairs of diamond earrings floating around Saskatoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Where
girlfriend.
does he get that from?
My girlfriend actually said that Aaron was a very old soul.
Okay.
He, in fact, one Valentine's, he made a romantic dinner at our house, steak and lobster, went out and bought all the stuff, and he loved to cook. Steak and lobster, he bought her roses and a little teddy bear, and had this all planned out. She worked till 8. He went and picked her up and brought her to the house, and she was actually mad because she wanted to go bar hopping,
Okay.
and he was crushed.
He was crushed by that.
Yeah, he was.
So he was
a romantic.
he was a hopeless romantic,
Yeah.
kind of like
Old,
his mama.
old beyond his years.
Yeah. And you mentioned that he was an avid basketball player.
Love basketball.
And you have a basketball story that sticks out in your mind about.
I do.
Yeah.
And when you ask me what Aaron was all about, and this really speaks to who he was as a person. So,
And how old is he? This story.
he was in grade 7.
Grade 7.
And I was the assistant basketball coach for our community league. And
sorry, just to interrupt, but and he passed away at what age?
22.
22 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So he's in grade 7,
Yeah.
community basketball, and one of the boys from his school decided to join basketball. But as you know, everything's so competitive nowadays, and if you don't start hockey when you're 3, you're not going to be
Right.
playing hockey. Anyway, we'll call this kid Billy. Billy decides to play basketball, and he's never played before. And Aaron and his best buddy are the starters for the team. So we were driving home from the first basketball practice, and Aaron and his buddy are mocking this kid, going, he doesn't know how to catch, he doesn't know how to run, he can't dribble the ball and stuff. And so I'm listening to this conversation in the back seat on the way home, and I said to them, I don't care if Billy drops the ball, if you hit him in the head, if he's open, you pass the ball to him. He deserves to play just as you do, and I want you two to be the leaders and show the rest of the team that Billy deserves a spot on the team. And if you don't do that, you're going to be benched, because we have to look at your basketball team just as we do family. And we're playing together as a team, and you always stick up for
Right.
your team,
right.
just like you always stick up for your family.
Mm-hmm.
And it took them a few practices to get this into their
Yeah.
head. And of course, when you get into a game situation, and I had told the head coach my strategy, and
So you told him to bench him?
Yeah, I did.
As I
And-
was going to ask you that, well, are you coaching the team? Or
No, I was assistant coach.
You were a coach enthusiast?
No, I used to play basketball. So I told their coach, this is the deal, and I'm counting on Aaron and his buddy to be the leaders of the team, and Billy deserves to play just as they do. And he thought it was a great strategy, and it only took a couple of benching on those two boys, and they figured it out. It's not about winning; it's about pulling together
Right.
as a team
Right.
and developing Billy's skills.
Right.
And so yeah,
And so that worked out quite well.
it worked out well.
Good.
Yeah, it did.
Hard lessons worked
Hard
out
lessons, but yeah, Aaron and his buddy really pulled Billy into the fold, and fast track a year later. So this is grade 8, and we've got a no bullying policy at school, which every school has. I think sometimes we need to be a little
Yeah.
bit flexible on this.
well. Is this the story I think it
I
is?
get a phone call. I get a phone call that Aaron's been expelled from school, and I'm shocked. Like, how did this happen? I go to the school, meet with the principal. He tells me his version of the story, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to go home and talk to Aaron, and we'll circle back." So I go home, and I said, "Okay, buddy." Let me have it. What happened today? So the boys were all playing basketball, the big boys, grade 7s and 8s, and there was 2 teacher supervisors on the playground. Something happened over on the swing set with the 5 and 6-year-olds, and both teacher supervisors were over in that area. But so the boys are all playing basketball, and Aaron looked over, and Billy has this big kid that plays hockey on his back, and he's pounding the crap out of him. So Aaron sauntered over and said, "Hey guys, like, what's going on?" He said, "Leave him alone. Leave Billy alone. Why don't you pick on somebody your own size?" So this, I'm going to call him a hockey bully, turned on Aaron, and beat the crap out of him. The hockey kid was expelled for 3 days as well. So this is Aaron's version. I said, did you think to get a teacher over to help out? And he said, no, they were busy with the 5-year-olds. And I said, okay, because I talked to the principal, and you're expelled for 3 days. And he said, yeah, I know. He said, but Mom, I could ask you something. I said, okay. He said, Billy's on our basketball team, and you said your team is like your family, and you have to always have their back and always include them. He said, I couldn't walk away from him. And I did the right thing, Mom. I know I did the right thing. And so the next day I went to the school and talked to the principal. And I said, okay, this is what I know for sure. And I told him about the conversation with the boys the year prior, saying, keep your family close, keep your team close, always have your family's back. And he said, we can't make any concessions for this. He's expelled, and so is the hockey kid for 3 days. And I said to him, so really you've given him 3 days off with pay, because you know that I don't need a babysitter. He's going to stay home and game for 3 days. Like, you can't get him to, clean the gym floor, whatever, some chores. No, he has to stay off the school property. Okay, so he actually went to high school, which I found out later, with bully. He had been personaed as a bully. And Dwayne was not happy about the way I handled it. I said to Dwayne, he did the right thing. He said, no, he didn't. He broke the law. I said, no, he did the right thing. And what reinforced that to me was a couple of weeks after the fact, I ran into Billy's mom at the grocery store. And I didn't really know her. I knew who she was, but she wasn't a neighbor. We weren't friends. And she hugged me in the grocery store and said, you should be so proud of your son. Billy had migraines for a few days, and then he had some anxiety, and he was scared to go back to school. And she had called the school and talked to the principal and said, Aaron should not be expelled. He did the right thing.
Yeah.
And I said, I had the conversation too with the principal, but I said, just between you and I, we know Aaron did the right thing, and sometimes you get incarcerated for doing the right thing.
Yeah, you do sometimes.
And she thanked me.
Yeah.
And she said, say thank you to Aaron for me too.
Wow. He just didn't want to get benched.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
He didn't want to get benched.
Get benched, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those.
That's an awesome story.
That was one of those make you proud moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stick up for the underdog.
Stick up for the underdogs, yeah. What about his... he was a kind person from the stories that you have shared with me. And I remember you telling me a story, some cab driver thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He would have been 20 at the time, 19 or 20. And my parents used to always give the kids $50 for Christmas, and the kids think they won the lottery. My niece had just moved into her first home, and she had all the nieces and nephews over on Boxing Day for drinks and snacks and come see my home. And everyone was invited to stay for a sleepover. She had sleeping bags and whatnot, and it was after midnight, and Aaron decided that he wanted to come home. I guess there wasn't enough carpet space or whatever. So he took a cab home.
Right.
And he was talking to the cab driver. The cab driver was a new immigrant to Saskatoon. He'd only been here a few months, and from a much warmer climate that we have. So it's minus 38. It's freezing cold out. And Aaron gets into a pretty heavy conversation with this cab driver on the way home. It was a 20-minute ride. But this cab driver was new to Saskatoon, and he had 4 kids and a wife, and they were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And he was complaining about how cold it is and the climate was different, but at least he felt safe because in his home country, he never felt safe. And so Aaron just kept engaging in conversation, asking him questions. And so when the gentleman dropped him off at our house, Aaron paid his cab fee, and he pulled the $50 out that my parents had given him for Christmas, which he'd had for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And he said, "You need this more than me. Best wishes to you. Welcome to Canada."
Wow.
And yeah, when he told me that the next day, I wasn't actually surprised because that's just the kind of kid he was.
Made you feel pretty proud, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you think, "Fuck, I've done something right."
Yeah. We need more of that in the world today.
Yeah, we do. We do.
We do. There's a story. I'm just going to talk about a few stories here because you have shared. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The box is over there. You need it. You have shared some quite entertaining stories about him, and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but I think it's it's an intelligence story.
Okay.
It speaks to intelligence. Aaron was tasked in high school. I don't know what year it was. I don't remember what grade he was in, but he was tasked in high school to write a paper.
Grade 12.
That he didn't quite agree with the subject matter, let's say, and he came home and refused to do it. Can you share that story?
Yeah, okay. So my kids went to a Catholic school, and certainly not that we're religious, but I wanted to expose them to religion.
Right.
And the Catholic school system, you also had to do volunteer work, which I think is very important to do in your community. So it just had a better curriculum, in my opinion. Anyway, in grade 12, he was tasked with his final paper for Christian ethics class. So you want to be the Pope. And
so you want to be the Pope.
yeah, and so how do you get to be the Pope?
Okay.
So he comes home, and I mean, this is a make or break whether you're going to pass high school, because this is the final. This is the final chapter of grade 12. You've got 2 months left. We're almost home, and he goes, "I'm not doing it. I don't believe it. I don't want to be the Pope. I don't care." And so we talked a lot about that. Religion. He didn't believe in religion. Didn't believe that Jesus could walk on water, or part the seas, or share fish or bread with mass groups of people. He said it's just a fantasy. Okay, but meanwhile, as the mom, I'm going, "No, you're going to pass grade 12,
right?
And I'm going to make sure of it." So
you made a deal with him or something?
We made a deal.
You made a deal.
I said to him, "Give me your notes. Tell me what you have to do to get to the position of Pope, like the bishop, the archbishop, and I remember all the stages to get there. I will write this, but you are cleaning the entire house, toilets behind the couches and whatever." And he high-fived me and he said, "A deal." And so that Saturday, he went hard in the house for 8 hours, and I went hard on that assignment for 8 hours. And you know what?
What?
I thought I'd do better on that assignment. We passed. I think I got 83, but I thought I should have done better.
Right. Did you make a phone call to the school?
No, I didn't. You know, I thought, okay, we've passed this class.
We're out. Yeah.
Right.
But you know what? Good on Aaron. You know what? He knows how to negotiate, right? And good on him for standing up and for something that he questions, right?
And he questioned everything. He
That's
questioned authority, but in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very inquisitive. It speaks to his, and that's why I led that story with it speaks to intelligence. I'm not saying he's intelligent because he doesn't believe in religion. That's not the point I'm trying to make. Just so we're clear on that.
Yeah.
But he is an intelligent person for just questioning How does this make sense?
And for Aaron,
Right.
everything had to make sense
Yeah.
in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make as in common sense, right?
Which is kind of a gift, right? Not a lot of people have common sense. The more people we meet, right?
No, they don't. And so he academically he was quite bright.
He was, but he did let that slide in, I'm going to say grade 11, 12.
Because he didn't believe in that system. So
No, and he
how can
he just
you can't
he
fault
just
him
stopped
for that.
caring about academics. Yeah, because he was diagnosed, and I still question this. He was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome when he was in grade 5. He missed almost the entire year of grade 5, and so we had
So what is chronic fatigue syndrome?
extreme tiredness. He would sleep 18 hours.
Okay.
He was lethargic, pale.
Okay.
Yeah, it was diagnosed in November, and so he only went to 2 months of school in grade 5, and then picked up in June. So he had a tutor. The school board assigned a tutor to him, and the tutor spent 2 hours a week at our house. That's it.
At the house.
At the house.
Okay.
And Aaron didn't skip a beat. In fact, in grade 8, he was done the math curriculum by New Year's. He loved math. So it kind of made me question. He's had 2 hours of education
Yeah.
a week when most kids have
40.
25.
Yeah.
And he stayed on top of the curriculum. When I think back through the rest of our journey, that was more than likely when the depression started.
Okay.
The specialist that diagnosed him with the chronic fatigue said it'll be up, down, and around, but usually children that are diagnosed with chronic fatigue.
But you didn't
early,
know that at the time.
No,
It
we
wasn't.
didn't. No, this is hindsight.
Yeah.
The specialist had said most children that are diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome outgrow it by their late teens.
Okay.
So there was up and down and around for the next 5 years, and we're thinking, okay, we're going to outgrow this.
Yeah.
More than likely, that's when the depression started, but
But you didn't know it
we
at the
didn't
time.
know at the time.
So tell me about. He was quite good with his hands, right? He loved to build. Well, he liked to take things apart. We know that. But he also liked to craft things and make things. Not arts and crafts, but worked on cars with his dad, with Dwayne. He had a boat that he was painting. They painted cars together.
Ripped motors out together.
Yeah, and all that took place in this room. There's a paint booth just off the way here, and a couple of car lifts and things like that in this space. And he actually built this table.
Yes, he did.
That our YouTube table.
Yeah, he did.
That we what did we do? You know what? We repurposed it. Right?
And he was all about repurposing stuff.
He totally. It was kind of a minimalist in a sense, right? I know you can't see on camera, but we actually put 2 dimes in the table here in honor. There's a dime story we'll get into in future segment.
Yeah.
It speaks to that. But we repurposed the table, and the table has a very beautiful story to it. So I want you to tell people, because this is painting a picture of who Aaron was, right? This is painting a picture of who Aaron still is.
Because I always talk about Aaron in present tense.
Yeah, you do. And again, I feel like I know him. We talk about him a lot.
So the table that we're using used to be a raft.
Yeah.
And before the pond dried out, so our acreage used to have a pond at the back of it.
A fairly big one.
Fairly big one, probably 15 feet deep.
Right.
Little too shallow to put fish in it because he wanted to have
Right.
a perch pond, or I don't know,
Right.
some kind of fish he wanted to plant in there. So he built a raft and had a little motor on the back. And there, well, I shouldn't say it wasn't a small raft. It was probably 12 by 14. He built little chairs around it and would take the portable barbecue out there. And his girlfriend would come over and he'd take hot dogs and he'd wheel around the pond.
Just
on the
putting
raft,
around,
putting around with his little motor. Then once the pond dried up, he repurposed this and made a tool trolley, workbench kind of thing on wheels that he could wheel around. And then we decided to repurpose it just a little bit more and made it into our YouTube table.
Yeah, a lot of energy in this table, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I was writing some notes down before we shot this segment, and I thought, you know what, we got to tell the raft story because that speaks volumes to who he was in the outdoor space and his hopeless romantic. Put the girlfriend on the raft and spray her down full of off and Saskatchewan cologne, right?
Yeah.
And go for a wiener roast or whatever that is, right? Yeah, and as you said, he loves to cook, and you've told me stories about him loving to cook too. Also in this room, Dwayne, his dad, had boys' night every week, right? So there was a group of, well, I'll let you tell the story, because the question I want to ask you in regards to Aaron is how he interacted with the older crowd, right? Because you know what, I know what men can be like, and dads of the universe, and they're all, yeah, back in the day, right? But Aaron would be listening to these stories.
Well, boys' night happened Wednesday nights at our house. The first year we got married, 1989.
Yeah.
Wednesday night was boys' night.
Is that when you drove home with no tire on the car?
We're not talking about that right now.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Wednesday night, boys' night, sometimes the boys would go golfing. There was some, computers were still just coming to be. All of the guys that came over.
This is early 90s.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Pong,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that progressed into some golf simulator games in the winter time. In the summertime, most on the golf. They also flew radio control airplanes and drones and stuff like that. So sometimes Wednesday night would be meeting at the flying field, but always come back to our house for a drink and snacks and whatever. It was just always at our house.
And so Aaron would be around that crowd, but he would challenge some of these old boys.
Yeah, he would.
Right?
But he had a great deal of respect for them and knew that they were all really intelligent.
Yeah.
And so he'd sit around and listen to them talking about, drones or a problem with a motor, a problem with some IT thing or whatnot. And he'd just sit and listen, and then he'd ask questions. Well, what about this? What if you tried that? What about that? And most often the old guys would have an answer for them, but sometimes the old guys would look at him and go,
They'd stump him.
that would work.
Yeah.
Why didn't we think about that?
Yeah.
That would work. And then Aaron would have one of these moments, right?
Yeah.
I caught the old guys. Didn't happen often, but very inquisitive and loved to ask questions.
Who was his biggest influence?
Oh, biggest influence. He was influenced by his dad, learned lots from his dad. He was a lot like Dwayne with the inquisitive mind, wanting to learn how to fix vehicles, how to paint vehicles, had a great deal of respect for Dwayne. I influenced him maybe more on the softer side. When he had a problem,
The dad couldn't
fix because Dwayne was a fixer. He fixed everything.
Yeah.
If it was broken, it could be fixed. You can't fix broken hearts. Dad can't fix broken hearts. And so I'd be laying in bed watching TV or whatever, facing the TV. Aaron would be facing me with his feet up the wall.
Because he was 12 feet tall.
He was 12 feet. And we'd solve the world's problems together.
Yeah. I can picture that.
Yeah, he came to me when he needed a soft place to land. We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, I know you did.
Yeah.
I definitely know that. So what age, we've kind of been bouncing around in that 22-year time gap. What age was he at when you started to notice there might be a concern for him?
His first attempt when he was 18. His girlfriend had broken up with him, and
At 18 years
at 18,
old.
yeah.
And he was
He was devastated. Yeah. The first love.
Yeah.
They'd been together a couple of years.
Yeah.
And he didn't do well with that.
So do you mind speaking to that a little bit about what that looks like? What just for any parents that might be watching this, that they can understand what a first attempt is. What is that? Is it what does that look like? Is that a hard thing for you to answer?
Yeah. Well, he was already at a high school, and it was in the fall. He was working, and it's almost like your child has grown up. They're at a high school. They don't have to do homework or whatever. And it was a Thursday night, and he actually texted my daughter and said I did something really stupid.
Okay.
So we spent the next 12 hours in the hospital. And when somebody...
What did he do? Can I ask that?
No.
Okay.
When somebody attempts suicide, the exit interview is with the psychiatrist. And Aaron spent maybe 7 minutes with the psychiatrist.
Okay.
And we were told that he was not in danger to be a repeat offender. He was very remorseful. It was a stupid thing to do. And this was the professional. So we're going to believe that. Yeah.
Okay. Very sobering.
It really takes the wind out of your sails, though, because you go, what did we miss? I mean, but there weren't any obvious signs leading up to that
Right.
you would say, wow, we missed that.
So life-changing.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like I need to ask some questions on that, but I don't think I need to. Do I
Okay.
need to?
I don't think so.
Okay. At that point, when that event happened, I'll ask you this question, and then I'll come back. So you said that was his first attempt. How many attempts were there? Can we put a number to that?
5.
5 in total. So
4 attempts, and then the fifth one was the final.
the final one. So there's time in that goes along a timeline, obviously.
4 years.
Sorry?
4 years from the first
4
one.
years. So you're dealing with that the best way that you know how, I suppose. From mom and dad looking at it, and what kind of avenues did you guys have to go through as a family to look for support?
To be honest with you, because we were told that he was not at risk to be a reoffender, we were very cautious, but we sort of took our foot off the gas, and we talked about it, definitely talked about it, but it wasn't like we tried to get him counseling or help or anything further than this is... It's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
And we needed to believe that.
Yeah. And so the second attempt, a year later, maybe, somewhere in that time frame?
It's interesting you should ask me that, because it kind of all rolls together.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple of attempts that were really close together.
Right.
So I can't give you a date, but yeah.
That's fine.
Within a year.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we got to do something about
So the
this.
gas pedal
The
got
gas
stepped
pedal went
on.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it did.
if you don't mind, I know a part of this story, obviously, but I want to try to bring that out in the sense. So when you started to look at more putting the gas pedal down, more serious professional help, what was that like for you guys as a family? What was it like for you?
It was difficult because there's no set system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's no program, which I learned out the hard way. It wasn't until his third attempt that I had him certified and admitted to the inpatient clinic in Saskatoon, which
Can you say the clinic's
has a
name?
huge wait list. Huge wait list.
Is that the Dubé?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Um,
Can you tell the story about that visit when you went there? Because you were there a couple times, correct?
mm-hmm.
So could you mind telling that piece?
We had been to Emerge a few times, and he was admitted for a couple of days, but getting into the overnight clinic for any period of time was just almost impossible to do. So I remember when he was admitted, I had a nurse that was looking after that ward, and I was there by myself with Aaron, and I said to her, I don't know what to do anymore. This was his third attempt. And she hugged me, and she said, would you like to speak to a social worker? And I said, I didn't know that was an option. This is our third time at this merry-go-round. Yeah, I would. So in 10 minutes, there was a social worker there. And I was so taken aback because this was never an option to me the two times before. So I talked to the social worker, told her the history, and said, my son needs help and I don't know where to go. And I said, we need to get him into the Dubé clinic. And she said, there's a wait list. And that's not an easy thing to do. And I have to write letters. And I said, I will help you write letters. I can't let this go. So she pulled out her laptop and we wrote the letter together. And the next day he was admitted. And I felt this sense of relief and a sense of hope that this is just going to fix it. Like, we've got this. This is great. And he was there for 3 days. That's all they keep him.
3 days.
3 days. They change medication. They spend zero time with them. They spend 5 minutes a day with a psychiatrist. And then they discharge them. And because Aaron was over the age of consent at that time, there's a lot of things that were out of my control. So he didn't want me in the discharge meeting, so I couldn't be there. And I picked him up and he came home.
And what was the ride home like? Was it?
He was very upbeat,
Yeah.
pretty happy, medicated. Saw a lot of people a lot sicker than him in the clinic.
Right.
And just felt like he had a new lease on life.
Okay. And how did you feel?
I felt relieved, but I felt really cautious because this is our third merry-go-round.
Right.
And
Did you ask him about his exit interview, or were you cautious with
he
that?
He shared a little bit with me,
Okay.
but it was more of a, don't worry, Mom, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Got this.
Yeah. Wow. And that's our system. Hopefully it's changed somewhat since then.
So on the fourth attempt,
Mhm.
I demanded that he get put back in the Dubé clinic, certified again.
Right.
And I started looking for help elsewhere. I researched clinics across Canada. Mental health and addiction goes hand in hand. Some of the clinics that I found would not take anybody that had attempted suicide. I did find a clinic in BC, but once again, because he was over the
Right.
age of consent,
Right.
I can't force him to
Right.
do anything. And
Just so we're clear, I don't want to interrupt your story, but I want to make it crystal clear that Aaron was not a drug user and he was not addicted to drugs.
he did use street drugs.
He did.
I wouldn't say that he was a drug addict, but yes, he did.
Okay.
He did use street drugs. And that started when I think to numb the pain
Okay.
when the prescription drugs didn't work.
Okay.
Because he was over the age of consent, we could have put him in this clinic in BC, but he could leave at any given time, and he wasn't up for that.
Mm-hmm.
So he said no, and you can't force an adult child to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So while he was in the Dubé clinic that fourth attempt, I just started reaching out and trying to find help somewhere. I sent a letter to the federal Minister of Health, Jane Philpott at the time.
Okay.
Got a standard letter back saying, check with your provincial health minister, because the federal government doles out money to each of the provinces, and it's up to the provinces to figure out if they're going to use it for mental health or cancer treatment or whatever, however that looks. So I reached out to Duncan Duncanson at the provincial office, and he referred me to Saskatoon Health Region, which is the region that we live in,
Right.
to find answers there. So I did, to find out that we really don't have a system. And I had previously been told by the head of psychiatry at our local hospital that we had fallen through the cracks in previous attempts. And I said to him, you have to have a platform, or you have to have a program for us to fall through the cracks. But there's nothing. We fell through a deep, dark hole, and there's no system in place. And this was actually when I sat and emerged with him one night, and he asked me if I was comfortable taking Aaron home. And I said, no, I'm not. And he gave me his cell phone number, and he said, you can reach out to me at any time. I'm here to help. We took Aaron home, and we were back and emerged the next day. And I phoned his cell phone number and left a message, and I never did hear back from him.
Ever.
Ever.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what to say to that.
There's nothing to say. Mm-hmm. So.
What was his name? You don't want to do that?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
So when Aaron was discharged from the Dubé clinic after the fourth attempt, when I was researching other clinics or inpatient hospitals, I threw out a card that could have backfired on me. It was discharge day, and I went into his room with him, and the discharge looks, you've got a psychiatrist, you've got a psych nurse, you've got a doctor, it's a little bit intimidating for a 21-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
all these white coats and whatnot. But I said to Aaron, you can't come home with me unless I get to sit in on the discharge meeting.
Discharge, yeah.
And that could have gone either way. But I needed to have some answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to find out the best follow-up plan for us. And these are the professionals. These are the extremely smart people that I'm entrusting my son's life with. And I need to know how best to support him at home, because clearly we're not doing the right thing.
Wow.
And he allowed me to sit in.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He allowed me to sit in.
Good. So that brings us to the fifth attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the night before that happened.
So it just so happened to be Wednesday night,
Which is boys' night.
boys' night.
Yeah.
The boys all had drones, and they'd fly them around.
Right.
Aaron bought a drone too, and he'd race with the guys or whatever. It was super upbeat. It was great. I was sitting out here watching. It's June. It's beautiful out. He gave me a hug and he says, "Good night, Mom. I'm going to bed."
In this room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Said goodnight to all the boys and whatever. And it was 10 o'clock. I gave him his last hug at 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday.
And so brings us to the day.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through that?
We actually were, Dwayne and I were going to the funeral for a friend of ours. Her mother had passed away. And Aaron wasn't home when we got up in the morning. Sometimes he'd leave and go be with his girlfriend. I mean, he's 21 years old. But something with both of us, we just didn't feel right. Drove by his girlfriend's house, and his car wasn't there. So, of course, we had the funeral at 10 o'clock. We went to the funeral, turned our phones off, and after the funeral, we went for lunch. I had a big seminar in the afternoon that I was coordinating at work, and Dwayne had stuff to do too, and so we just stopped by one of our favorite burger places and grabbed a burger we're sitting in, and my phone lit up with an unknown number, and I wasn't going to answer it, but something told me I should.
Yeah.
And my world changed forever.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you drove home from there
Drove to my daughter's office.
to your daughter's office.
I couldn't get to her quick enough.
Yeah.
And then we came home in total shock
Mm-hmm.
and made some phone calls, some really hard phone calls. You never get that screaming out of your head with other people's reactions. And so we packed up and we went to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
We went to our favorite lake for 4 days to just breathe and figure out how the three of us were going to move forward.
Right. So you were unable. The authorities couldn't get a hold of you.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a hold of your daughter first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So she had to bear that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She did.
Hmm. Okay.
Hmm.
So are you are you comfortable with um, saying how it happened?
No.
Not at all. Okay. Um, okay. You want to talk about the obituary?
You know what? When we went to my daughter's office,
Yeah.
the RCMP were there. They delivered the news to her, and the RCMP had a memory stick, and he found in Aaron's pocket,
Okay.
and it was his farewell letter to us. Um, and without reading the whole thing to you, he did say in there that we were the best family. He knew he was loved, and he loved us to pieces too. Um, he also said that for me, um, while I was fighting the healthcare system, Dwayne was on the back end building cars and keeping him entertained. Not entertained. Keeping him
Engaged.
engaged.
Yeah.
They had built a business called ACDC Customs. Cars and fix-its and that kind of stuff. So he said that, so back to his suicide note, he said, don't stop the fight for mental health. Share my story.
Yeah.
I'll be watching over you. I just wasn't meant to walk on this earth. So those were his final words.
Right.
So that inspires me today. And as I've said in previous episodes, I've started a book 1,000 times, but there's been a lot of noise and a lot of distractions with other deaths.
Yes, there has been.
Um, by far, this one is the most, I don't want to say monumental, but certainly the one that affects me the most. When you lose a child, it's so different than losing a parent or a partner, because not only are you losing them right now, you're losing the future of them. Would he have gotten married? Would he have children? What kind of job would he have aspired to? And in the last couple of weeks, as you know, I've found out about 2 suicides of people that aren't in my inner circle, more acquaintances. And it just rips my heart out.
It's a trigger.
And these people were well into their 50s. And you just think, why does this happen? What kind of journey did they go through? What kind of journey did their families go through? And even though I don't know their partners and their children and their grandkids, I know how that feels to have so many questions and no answers. And you're just completely devastated because these people have been in your life for so long, and you plan your future with them.
Yes. Well, I think it speaks volumes to what his message was to you in his suicide note. You also mention it in the obituary itself too, about to keep up the fight. And
That was important to me. As much as Aaron didn't want a lot of people to know about his depression and anxiety, he did have a couple of close buddies that he spoke to. He had a great counselor that he connected with. Him and I talked about it all the time. I took the Assist Suicide Awareness 2-day seminar. I talked to him about that as well, what I was learning. We talked about suicide in our house. And I mean, asking somebody if they feel suicidal is not going to put that into their head that they're going to suicide.
No.
And that's a fallacy that we've all been told.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have his down days or up days or
Right.
whatever, and I'd say, dial in. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling suicidal? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's very important in the message that you're carrying the work forward in a sense that you're still doing the fight.
I'm trying.
You're trying, right? And I'm connected to that with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in honor of everybody that's just doing the fight, don't give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why we're doing this format too,
Mm-hmm.
that it's okay to talk.
It's always okay
Because you
to
can't,
talk.
you
You
can't
have to talk.
live in your own head.
No.
And for a lot of these
No,
reasons.
You can't. And gone are the old days where you didn't talk about death, you didn't talk about suicide.
Yeah.
I was actually really offended when my mom didn't want to tell friends how Aaron died.
How he died. Yeah.
I'll just say he was, hit by a drunk driver. No,
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah.
He took his own life. He suicided. He did not commit suicide. And I'm crazy about people that
That's
say
right.
commit suicide. He suicided,
Yeah.
and we need to tell the truth.
We do need to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're doing this,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We need more people doing this
Mm-hmm.
to try to help people we don't even know,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're a very courageous woman.
It's been quite the journey. It's, what else do you have? You can curl up in a ball and stop living, or you can carry on, keep living, and share his story. Because he said, share my story.
Yeah, he did. And this gives us purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does. Mm-hmm. It's such a selfless purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell anybody who's watching. We know about the raft, right? The pond. Tell me about Aaron's reflection chair.
Okay. Aaron was very creative with woodworking and stuff. And in grade 12, he made this beautiful cedar chair.
Yeah.
And I found it last year.
It's had some weather, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it only had like a clear coat of something on it, but very, very weathered.
Yeah.
And I pulled it out from behind a tree, and I thought, you know what? I need to paint this. And Aaron's favorite color was this turquoise blue.
Yeah.
And so when my sister was visiting, my sister's very creative too. We painted it turquoise.
Yes.
And put some stencils on it with yellow. Yellow's my favorite color. And the stencils are anything that can fly away and be free. Right. Butterflies, birds, dragonflies. And we did a good job on it.
Yeah, so we are putting the chair out in the meadow in the back 40 here that overlooked his favorite pond, right?
It's right where the sun sets.
And we call it the reflection chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's important to reflect, remember. I always make his favorite dinner on his birthday still, and it's almost 9 years.
Was his favorite dinner the meat cake?
No, he did like the meat cake, but no, it was the curry, the curry noodles.
Right, the curry noodles that I like.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's very important to talk,
Mhm.
right? And as hard as this is for you,
It's healing.
yes, it has to be.
Mhm. I remember my aunt saying to me when we had Aaron's celebration day. Her son, my cousin, had passed away a few years previous in a plane crash, and she said to me, "It does get easier, and it's never easy um, because with your child, you go from missing them,
Hmm.
after a week or two, to the reality that they're not coming back."
Yeah.
Not saying that getting through the first Christmas or birthday or anniversary date makes it any easier
All the firsts. Yeah.
on the firsts, because they're all hard.
Yeah.
And some things trigger memories, right?
Yeah.
I see somebody walking down the street that's tall and lanky and swinging their arms like he did, or I see a vehicle like his, or hear a song,
Yeah.
and it just triggers a memory, and I have to embrace that
Yeah.
because that's all I got is memories.
Or a mother with another child in a
Mhm.
restaurant,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's super important to have the discussions because this is how we celebrate,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's not something to be afraid of, I don't think. Is it?
No. No.
Like, we're only human,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And we need to cry,
Mhm.
right?
That's important.
It's important. And Dwayne, it crushed him as it crushed you.
It devastated him. Hmm. Yeah, it did. Um, he had a friend from high school
Yeah.
that had lost a son years earlier. I mean, what are the chances that two really good high school buddies would both lose a child?
Right.
Um, and
Different reasons.
different reasons. And at first, it was good that Dwayne had somebody to relate to because none of his other friends could feel that pain.
Right.
But it maybe wasn't the healthiest relationship. It was almost like a trauma bond
Yeah.
on a hamster wheel, talking about their sadness. And I noticed this probably 5 years after Aaron passed away,
Yeah.
that this wasn't helpful for either of them. They weren't moving forward. They were still wallowing in the past,
Yeah.
and hadn't healed.
And that's what a trauma bond is,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
you connect with a person that has equal loss at some level, and because it takes you back to that familiar place of the loss,
Hmm.
and it's not healthy.
No, and it's great that they could say to each other, "I know exactly how you feel,"
Yeah.
but neither of them had the strength to help each other out of the
Yeah.
dark hole.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And those are the only people that can say, I know exactly how
Mhm.
you feel,
Hmm.
because they both experienced it for different reasons, but
Mhm.
the loss is the same.
Hmm. You're not supposed to lose your children.
No, you're not.
You're just not. You can't ever
You're not.
prepare yourself for that.
Yeah. Whereas if you find yourself in that situation, you should be helping each other climb out of the hole,
Hmm.
right? Otherwise, it becomes a game of, well, mine's more painful than yours. No, it's not. It's,
Hmm.
you know what? Let's help each other dig out.
Hmm.
And I know that's easier said than done,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it starts with conversations.
Well, and getting back to, you really have to have a support group,
Yeah.
support network, not
Yeah.
necessarily an official
Yeah.
support group, but you need
An
to
official capacity, you mean? Like,
you need to have support people that you can call in, and I
Yeah.
am so blessed that I have more than a handful of people in my life
yeah.
that I could call any day or
Yeah.
night, and they would be at my doorstep.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed. I'm absolutely blessed.
And even in the systems of government, provincial, whatever that is, that fell through the cracks, if you will, I think it's important to say that if you're finding those same non-answers within the government systems, reach out, man. Like, just reach out, because if they don't exist, let's create them. Because that's the path forward, right? Let's create them together as people. We don't need psychologists and psychiatrists and funny things on the wall to slip through the cracks, because it starts right here.
With the conversation.
Yeah. We'll get more into the trauma bond piece down the road.
Yeah, because that affected us for a while at our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure did.
Mhm.
And it still kind of does in a way,
Mhm.
right? And we'll talk about that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, a couple things. I noticed a shirt back here.
Mhm.
I would cuddle you so hard.
That was
Thoughts
Aaron's
about
shirt.
That was Aaron's shirt.
Aaron used to wear that out to the
He always cut sleeves off everything,
yeah. It'd show his pipes off.
right? His sticks.
Yeah. No, actually, he was
Yeah.
pretty jacked. Yeah, he used to wear that shirt to the bar, and the chicks love this shirt.
Right.
Mhm.
And you love yellow.
I love yellow. Yellow is my
Obviously.
favorite.
I noticed a heart on your sleeve.
This is my I wear my heart on my sleeve shirt,
Okay.
and yellow is my favorite. It's just like
Yeah.
wearing a warm blanket.
You do wear it on your sleeve.
I kind of do.
Yeah. Have you always been that type?
I can't answer that.
I can.
Okay.
I love you. Proud of you. Super proud of you. Okay. We're good? Well, as hard as that was, I appreciate you sharing the story of suicide with Aaron and how that affected your entire world.
It changed the course.
It sure did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're going to take this to new places in honor of that,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
So he's still watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one.